In modern warfare, 48 hours is, well, it's basically an eternity.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it is enough time to reposition an entire carrier strike group across a theater of operations.
Right.
Or enough time to recalibrate the really complex algorithms running a national air defense grid.
Exactly. Or, theoretically at least, it's enough time to step back from the brink of a catastrophic regional war.
Right. Theoretically. But welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we are looking at a stream of breaking intelligence where, honestly, a 48-hour diplomatic lifeline was essentially just tossed right into the incinerator.
Yeah, it's a very tense situation.
It is. Yeah. You are dropping into an incredibly volatile, really fast-moving situation developing across the Middle East. And our focus today, the whole mission of this deep dive, is cutting through the overwhelming noise of this gathering storm.
Because there is a lot of noise right now.
So much noise. We are going to look purely at the verified telemetry and the tactical intelligence coming in regarding the United States, Iran, and Israel. Yep. And just to be totally clear right up front, we are looking at this impartially. No spin, no endorsing any political viewpoints, no taking sides.
Yeah, just delivering the vital information.
Exactly. We are just here to map the raw mechanical reality of how a localized escalation has, seemingly overnight tipped into a serious global crisis.
And, the terminology flashing across these intelligence briefings right now is just stark.
Yeah. What are they calling it?
Well, we're looking at a situation categorized not as a skirmish or even just an escalation, but explicitly as a dangerous turning point.
A turning point, wow.
Right. And when you analyze the architecture of international conflict, turning points usually don't happen by accident.
No, they're forced, right?
Exactly. They're forced. And the first really crucial data point we need to interrogate today is the deliberate removal of the brakes. The intelligence confirms that Iran has formally rejected a proposed 48-hour ceasefire.
Man, I look at that 48-hour rejection and I feel like I have to push past the obvious conclusion,
What do you mean?
Well, on the surface, the standard analysis is that rejecting a ceasefire simply means a party wants to keep fighting.
Sure, yeah. That's the headline.
Right. But you and I both know that in asymmetric warfare, a 48-hour window is not about drafting a peace treaty. It's a highly specific tactical mechanism.
It really is.
It's like, think of it like throwing a fire blanket over a grease fire.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. You don't throw the blanket on to fix the broken stove. You just do it to stop the house from burning down immediately. Yeah. Or it's like a thermal throttle in a high-performance engine. You engage it to bleed off just enough heat so the engine block doesn't crack under those extreme RPM.
Exactly.
Now,
in military terms, a 48-hour pause is usually used to reload depleted Patriot missile batteries.
Right.
Or, to allow back-channel intelligence assets to quietly exchange red lines.
Right.
So when a power actively refuses that window, they are making a massive strategic bet.
So when one party looks at that brief 48-hour window and says flat out no, what does that tell us about the momentum of this conflict?
Well, it tells us that their bet is calculated on the value of momentum versus the value of logistics.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
So a tactical pause almost always serves the defender more than the aggressor.
Right.
If you are launching a coordinated offensive, hitting the pause button for 2 days allows your adversary to untangle their logistics. They can patch their runway craters, restock their interceptor stockpiles, all of that.
Give them time to catch their breath.
Exactly. By denying that pause, the calculation appears to be that maintaining uninterrupted kinetic pressure is far more valuable than any diplomatic maneuvering.
Oh, it's deliberate.
Very deliberate. It's a strategy of exhaustion. You are forcing the adversary to fight with degrading resources.
Okay, but let me throw a completely different read at you, though.
Sure.
What if it is not about offensive momentum at all? What if this rejection is actually a symptom of, like, an internal command and control breakdown?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Because think about how modern proxy warfare operates. You are dealing with localized militias, decentralized cells, highly autonomous factions scattered across multiple borders.
Right, it's highly fragmented.
Exactly. If Central Command does not have an ironclad grip on every single one of those autonomous groups, they physically cannot guarantee a ceasefire.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
Like if they agree to a 48-hour pause and then some rogue militia commander fires a ballistic missile anyway, the central authority looks incredibly weak. They look entirely out of control.
Yeah.
So rejecting the pause might actually be the only way to mask a fractured command structure.
That is a terrifying, but highly plausible analysis of the strategic environment right now.
Right.
Because if command and control is actually degrading like that, then the core concept of deterrence evaporates completely.
Completely.
Deterrence relies on a rational actor making predictable choices based on centralized authority. If the central authority can't control the decentralized trigger fingers, well, diplomacy becomes functionally useless.
You're not talking to the guy in charge anymore.
Exactly. You are no longer negotiating with a unified state apparatus. You're negotiating with a decentralized network of autonomous cells. And, none of them share the exact same risk calculus.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Whether this rejection is a deliberate strategy of exhaustion or just a mask for fractured control, the tactical outcome remains exactly identical.
Which is?
The airspace remains violently contested, and the escalation ladder gets extremely compressed.
Which brings us to the immediate kinetic consequence of throwing away that 48-hour window. Without that pause to bleed off the heat, the situation accelerated instantaneously.
It really did.
We are now looking at intelligence indicating a massive threshold has just been crossed. We have active reports of 2 U.S. aircraft being down, and an American military response is already underway.
Yeah, and we need to pause on that.
Yeah.
Because in the hierarchy of geopolitical triggers, the loss of manned American aircraft is a seismic event.
It's huge.
It is. Up until direct, manned assets are destroyed. Conflicts can often be sort of contained to the gray zone.
Like cyber attacks and stuff.
Yeah, cyber warfare, proxy skirmishes, maybe drone interceptions. It is violence, obviously, but it's calibrated violence.
Right.
The destruction of U.S. aircraft obliterates that gray zone completely. It draws a global superpower directly and kinetically into the fray.
It changes the whole game.
It shifts the dynamic from regional maneuvering to direct superpower engagement. A proportional response is no longer just an option on the table.
Right.
It is a mechanical certainty built into American defense doctrine.
But let's pause and look at the exact wording in the intelligence trickling out right now, because I think this is critical.
Okay.
We are seeing the phrase, quote, reports of 2 U.S. aircraft down.
Yes. Reports of.
Not confirmed visual destruction of, not recovered wreckage of. We are just talking about reports.
Oh, yeah.
This plunges us headfirst into the modern mechanics of the fog of war. And I want to unpack this with you, because understanding how an unverified report can trigger an actual massive military response is just crucial here.
Well, the modern fog of war is entirely different from the historical concept.
How so?
In the past, commanders suffered from a lack of information. They had to wait hours, maybe days, for scouts to return or physical cables to be sent.
Right, waiting for the telegraph.
Exactly. Today, military commanders suffer from the exact opposite problem. It's data saturation and algorithmic acceleration.
Right, because command centers are not sitting around waiting for a physical photograph anymore. They're watching a digital twin of the battle space in real time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
They're constantly monitoring Link 16 data networks, satellite relays, real-time transponder codes.
Right.
So when an advanced fighter jet goes off the grid, it is not some slow realization. A radar track just vanishes.
Just gone.
Telemetry streams instantly go dark. And at that exact millisecond, automated early warning algorithms flag a catastrophic event.
But they don't know why it went dark.
Exactly. The command center does not immediately know if the aircraft suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure, or if it was an incident of friendly fire, or if it was actually targeted by an enemy surface-to-air missile.
And here is where the latency of human decision-making clashes with the sheer speed of modern weapons.
Yes.
You cannot afford to wait 24 hours to send a search and rescue team to verify the wreckage. I mean, if those jets were hit by a mobile surface-to-air missile battery, that battery uses shoot-and-scoot tactics.
Right.
It fires, and within minutes, it is moving to a new hidden location.
And that is the terrible math of modern retaliation. If a commander waits for absolute certainty, the window to neutralize the threat just closes.
The latency is fatal.
The latency is fatal. So the mere perception of a cross threshold, backed by that anomalous telemetry we talked about, it forces the gears of war to turn.
Wow.
Target acquisition protocols light up, strike packages are offered.
The dust even settles.
Exactly. The pressure to act instantly means militaries begin mobilizing retaliatory responses based entirely on algorithmic probabilities. They completely bypass the old, slow luxury of human verification.
Which makes the environment infinitely more volatile. We have an active U.S. military response spooling up in real time based on this telemetry.
Right.
And while the command structure in the region is absorbing that shock and directing immense bandwidth toward that specific crisis, the intelligence map is lighting up somewhere else entirely. This is not a localized, isolated clash at all.
No, it is a synchronized deterioration of the regional security architecture. Because at the exact same moment the U.S. response is underway, the intelligence feeds show simultaneous new attacks launching against Israel.
Okay, let's unpack this, because let's break down the mechanics of why this is so dangerous.
Sure.
If you're looking at a map right now, you aren't just seeing one line of conflict anymore. If you're a casual observer, you might look and see, okay, conflict in the Gulf and conflict in the Mediterranean, and you think of it as two separate problems.
Right, like two isolated incidents.
Yeah. It's just basic addition, right? 1 + 1 = 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the intelligence briefing specifically highlights this compounding instability. Mm-hmm. So how does the simultaneous nature of these events, a multi-front attack, act as a mathematical multiplier against a defense grid rather than just simple addition?
That's a great question, because national defense grids operate on physical and computational limits.
Okay.
Think of it sort of as a distributed denial of service or a DDoS attack, but applied to physical air defense.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Systems like the Iron Dome, David's Sling, or Patriot missile batteries, they are incredible feats of engineering, but they are not magic.
Right. They have limits.
They consist of radar arrays connected to processing computers, which are then connected to physical missile tubes. A system can only track a specific number of incoming vectors and calculate a specific number of intercept trajectories per second.
So it basically has a bandwidth cap.
Exactly, a hard bandwidth cap. Yeah. If an adversary launches a localized attack from one direction, the defense grid can allocate 100% of its processing power and its interceptor inventory to that single vector.
Right, it can handle that.
But when you orchestrate simultaneous attacks from multiple geographic fronts, while Allied radar networks are simultaneously distracted by U.S. military mobilization nearby, you are intentionally flooding the zone.
You're trying to overwhelm the system.
You are trying to exceed the processing power of the radar and deplete the physical tubes of interceptor missiles faster than they can be reloaded.
Man. And the intelligence networks are deeply integrated, right? Right. U.S. early warning aircraft and regional Allied radar stations constantly share data feeds.
Constantly.
So if the U.S. assets are suddenly consumed by managing a retaliatory strike mission regarding those downed aircraft, a massive portion of the regional surveillance blanket is just pulled away.
Yep.
That creates a blind spot.
A huge blind spot. And a blind spot that is immediately exploited. This synchronized timing is not coincidental at all.
It's planned.
It is a highly sophisticated stress test of the entire interconnected defense architecture. The adversaries are calculating that the interconnectedness of U.S. and Israeli defense postures is actually a vulnerability if both systems are saturated simultaneously.
Because they share resources.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A missile launched at Israel alters the posture of U.S. naval assets in the Mediterranean. The U.S. military response in the Gulf forces regional defense networks to retask their radar to monitor for wider retaliation.
Right.
It is a closed-loop system of cascading pressure.
Which brings us to the ultimate synthesis of all this intelligence. I mean, we started by looking at a rejected 48-hour pause.
Right.
We moved into the terrifying reality of the fog of war, where vanishing radar telemetry triggers instantaneous American military retaliation.
Yeah.
We just broke down how simultaneous attacks act as a DDoS attack on physical defense grids. Where does this specific sequence of events ultimately leave us?
It leaves us with the stark conclusion explicitly stated in the latest intelligence assessments. The terminology has fundamentally shifted.
In what way?
We are no longer discussing regional instability or a localized Middle East conflict. The synthesis of these events has officially birthed a serious global crisis.
Global crisis? Wow. You know, in the world of intelligence analysis, you do not use that phrase lightly.
No, you use it when containment has demonstrably failed. A localized conflict is defined by the ability to quarantine the economic and military shockwaves.
Keep it in a box.
Right. But look at the mechanisms currently in motion. You have the world's preeminent military superpower kinetically engaged, acting on automated telemetry.
Yeah.
You have major regional powers actively rejecting diplomatic pauses, signaling a complete commitment to total exhaustion warfare. And you have multi-front saturation attacks designed to collapse advanced defense grids.
The blast radius of that equation just cannot be contained to one geographic region.
It's physically impossible. When a region that controls critical global energy bottlenecks, like the Strait of Hormuz, descends into this level of uncontained multi-vector warfare, the global system instantly fractures. Insurance premiums for global shipping skyrocket overnight, severing supply chains.
Right.
The United States is forced to violently pivot its strategic assets, pulling carrier groups and surveillance bandwidth away from the Indo-Pacific or Europe just to manage the immediate fire. The instability is exported globally within hours.
It is the ultimate domino effect, but the dominoes are falling in multiple directions simultaneously.
Exactly.
We set out today to parse the raw intelligence, to understand exactly how the localized friction outlined in the gathering storm data tipped into this massive global event.
And we can see exactly how it happened.
Yeah, we looked closely at the tactical reality of rejecting that brief thermal throttle of a ceasefire, proving how closing diplomatic off-ramps just accelerates kinetic momentum.
Right.
We explored the mechanics of algorithmic warfare, where the absence of data, the dark telemetry of a downed aircraft, forces the immediate mobilization of American military power.
Yeah.
And we analyzed the multi-front attacks on Israel not as isolated incidents, but as calculated attempts to digitally and physically saturate regional defense networks.
It really strips away the illusion that modern conflicts can be fought in a vacuum.
Completely.
The interconnectedness of our defense technology and global economics basically guarantees that saturation attack in one hemisphere is a structural threat to the other.
It requires a completely different mental model to understand the news right now. You cannot just read a headline anymore, you know? You have to look at the underlying systems driving the action.
You absolutely do.
I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Navigating intelligence of this magnitude requires stepping back from the immediate emotion and analyzing the cold, hard mechanics of escalation.
Glad to be here.
But before we go, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final lingering thought based on the exact timeline of the events we just mapped out. It is something for you to mull over on your own as this unprecedented situation continues to unfold.
What stands out to you?
Well, if a strategically brief 48-hour pause was discarded, while simultaneous multi-vector attacks and massive superpower military responses unfolded almost instantly, driven entirely by the lightning speed of automated telemetry and algorithmic early warning systems.
Yeah.
Has the sheer computational speed of modern warfare permanently outpaced the latency of human diplomacy?